With the turn of the century, movies reflected the vision of America shared by Thomas Edison and the other men who invented the film industry. Most of these old stock Protestants saw film as an amusement for the working classes. The films presented negative images of hook-nosed Jews, blacks, and others. They championed an idea of America where the white upper classes ruled and immigrants knew their place.
Take one movie, just one movie. Biographs, The Fights of Nations. The Jews meet on the street and a policeman comes up to run off one of them who's peddling neckties. One of the other Jews pulls out money and hands it to the policeman as a bribe to let his friend sell the neckties. There is a thread connected to the money, so as the cop walks away smugly, the money pops out of his pocket back into the Jew's pocket. They're petty merchants, they jabber, and they corrupt cops. It's all so perfect. The blacks, they're in a saloon, and a fight ensues in which a huge razor is pulled. So the blacks dance, they fight over women, and they fight with razors. Then two Scotsmen fight nobly with courage and dignity. Then it cuts to the end, and the ethnic groups that are thought to be noble come out into a kind of tableau. John Bull comes out and shakes hands with everybody. Johnny Reb from the Confederacy comes out and takes a bow. The Scotsman comes out and takes a bow. And finally, Uncle Sam comes out and takes a bow. No Jews, no blacks. In effect, immigration has happened, but until the immigrants and the blacks learn what it's like to be old stock, they're not really in it yet.
The highest artistic achievement of pre-Jewish American cinema was the box office hit Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffith. The explicitly racist story glorified the Ku Klux Klan and played on white America's fear of racial intermixing. These films reflected popular American values of their era. Ironically, they were being shown in Jewish-run theaters to audiences of Jews and other immigrants. Independently of each other, the Warner Brothers, Zukor, Goldwyn, Lasky, and Laemmle began exhibiting the short films produced by the Edison men. They upgraded their theaters and sought ways to attract the middle class. Here, they drew on their Jewish experience.
The Jewish tradition has placed an enormous value on high culture, on learning and the finest expressions of music and art. At the same time, the experience of being on the margins meant that your identity was integrally tied to the maintenance of popular culture, collective norms at the lowest common denominator. And that combination of a commitment to high culture on the one hand and an appreciation of low culture or popular culture on the other was the perfect preparation. Adolf Zukor turning to a Sarah Bernhardt for a popular film, I think, is a case in point.
Adolf Zukor believed that to attract the middle class, one had to change not just the theaters, but the films. Bypassing Edison, he imported from France this film, featuring a famous stage actress. He premiered it in a Broadway theater. Not wanting to depend on Europeans for quality films, Carl Laemmle and the other Jewish exhibitors began producing their own films. Edison decided that the Jews had overstepped their bounds. To shut them out in 1908, he organized a producers' trust that declared a monopoly on film production in America. 7 years later, Edison's trust would lose its monopoly in the courts. But in 1912, to escape Edison and the goons he sent to enforce his control of the industry, the future moguls headed west to the orange groves of California. Here they found immediate success.
Now, why did they move to California? I believe that they went there because California was a raw social environment. And although there was a social system in place, it was nowhere near as sophisticated and nowhere near as entrenched as the social hierarchy in Boston or New York or even Chicago, where these moguls came from. So coming to California, they realized that they could create their own social environment. They could create an empire of their own, not only on screen, but within their own lives and their own social environment. And that's precisely what they did.
In 1915, Carl Laemmle had decided to open a very large plant in the valley north of Hollywood, which they called Universal City, and they got themselves a postal designation for Universal City with its own mayor and its own police force. A gigantic facility that includes all necessities for designing films, building sets, photographing them.